All right, here are your Thursday games in the Sweet 16, beginning with the number 1 overall seed and still the favorite to win the whole damn thing. Gonzaga taking on Arkansas. That game has a total of 155 points. That is by far the highest total of the Sweet 16 round. Michigan-Villanova is about, 20 minutes after that, around 7:30 Eastern time on CBS. The late games should be really good games. A pair of virtual pick'ems. Texas Tech, Duke, Houston, Arizona. Then on Friday, more Cinderellas. 3 double-digit seeds in action, beginning with 15th-seeded St. Peter's against Purdue. And you'll also have Iowa State against Miami. So we're going to have at least 1 double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. Between those 2 games, you have Kansas taking on Providence. And a blue blood matchup on CBS around 9:40 Eastern time in the East region, North Carolina and UCLA. Gary Parrish joining us to look ahead to the Sweet 16, which, I needed a day off, Amanda, as I told you yesterday, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get to Thursday.
One day's all you
needed. Get this thing going, yes. Let's start with your most intriguing matchup of the Sweet 16. What would that be, Gary?
First, tell me more about these days off you're talking about. What do those look like?
Well, I don't mean like an actual day off. I mean like a day off from college basketball viewing, which after 4 straight days of that, really 6 with the first 4, I needed 1 day, but now I'm ready.
You can't say any of this to Gary. He's working so much harder than you.
I know he is, but we don't have basketball to watch.
I got you. Listen, my favorite Sweet 16 matchup is Duke Texas Tech. Chris, I think you've got it right, having both of them in your top 5, along with the 3 number 1 seeds. This is one of the few Sweet 16 games, and maybe the only Sweet 16 game, where I think the 2 teams playing are both capable of winning the national championship. On one side, you've got a Duke team that is led by Paulo Banchero that is obviously trying to extend Mike Krzyzewski's career as long as they can extend it. Coach K now has 1,200 career wins. He's shooting for 1,204. On the other side, terrific story. Mark Adams at the age of 65, finally, after all these years, decades, getting an opportunity to lead a high major program, and he has knocked it out of the park. Red Raiders are the number 1 defensive team in America, ranked first in adjusted defensive efficiency according to KenPom. So this is going to be a high-level game, and obviously, if Texas Tech is able to win it, and the Red Raiders are a slight favorite, Mike Krzyzewski's career will come to a close.
Yeah, they're the only lower-seeded team favored over a higher-seeded team. Gary, when you look at these matchups in the Sweet 16, give us an upset pick.
Well, it is technically an upset for the reasons you just stated, but it would be a slight upset. I'll take Duke over Texas Tech. That's the way I had it in my initial bracket. Duke winning a Sweet 16 game to ultimately play Gonzaga in the Elite Eight, and so I'm not going to move off of that now. Obviously, Texas Tech has been so impressive and so overwhelming on the defensive end that odds makers have actually made the Red Raiders as a lower-seeded team a favorite over Duke. But this Duke team, when it operates at a high level, it is as good as anybody in the country because they have probably more NBA talent than any team in the country. A.J. Griffin went down in the round of 32. You obviously, Duke would like for him to be 100% and available. We'll see as we draw closer to Thursday exactly what that looks like. But I'll take the Blue Devils in a slight upset over Texas Tech on Thursday night.
Yeah, Tech favored by 1 point right now in Vegas. Sportsline has Duke winning that game as well. The only other upset that Sportsline likes is Houston over Arizona, another line that is close to a pick'em. How about your front runner for most outstanding player at this point in the tournament? And again, this almost always goes to the player on the winning team, so your team has to advance as well. Who do you like at this point?
I think I would go with Drew Timme at Gonzaga. Reasonable people could argue throughout the season whether Drew Timme or Chet Holmgren was actually having the best season for the Zags. But in this NCAA tournament, it is undeniably Timme. He turned it on against Memphis in the second half on Saturday night, scored 21 in the final 20 minutes. He was driving to the basket. He was hitting fadeaway jumpers. He was just terrific in every way. That Memphis team threw every punch it could possibly throw at Gonzaga. and had a 10-point lead at the break. And the Zags were able to come back and win it by 4, and Drew Timme was the main reason. I mean, you look at those numbers right there, that is most outstanding player of the Final Four type of stuff. And considering I do think the Zags are going to win this national title, the obvious pick right now to hold the trophy at the end is Drew Timme.
1983, the last time a player from a losing team won Most Outstanding Player. That was Akeem Olajuwon for Houston. All right, are you ready to revisit your bracket? I'm gonna give you credit. A lot of people do not want to revisit their brackets. That's why they tear it up and throw it away. But I've seen your bracket, Gary, and you had some cross-outs in that second round, some of the Sweet 16. But all in all, I mean, you got to be feeling pretty good because you have basically your whole Final Four intact outside of Auburn, who you had losing in the Final Four.
Yeah, I've got 3 of my 4 Final Four teams still alive, and I actually feel better about, say, UCLA getting there, considering what else has happened in that region. So I took a bit of a flyer on a 4-seeded Bruins team, and the path is now cleared for them to actually get to New Orleans. Auburn let me down. That was disappointing, but yeah, having 75% of your Final Four teams still alive at this point, it's not the worst thing in the world.
How is your bracket compared to Matt Norlander's?
I honestly haven't even compared them. I did check in the Eye on College Basketball bracket contest, and I'm in the 200s out of about 2,000.
Oh,
so that's not terrible. I would lean toward that's probably better than Norlander, but I couldn't say for sure.
Norlander had Illinois in his Final Four, so definitely doesn't have all 4. I also had Illinois in my Final Four. So, I mean, I think there's very few people at this point that have all 4 of their Final Fours still alive. So let's re-pick it. And let's go through the bracket here with our Sweet 16. Gary Parrish is going to re-pick the bracket. And again, from this point on, I mean, he has most of these teams in his bracket. So it's not going to change, I don't think, that much from what he originally picked. But it's Gonzaga over Arkansas. Duke is his upset pick over Texas Tech. And then you have Gonzaga beating Duke to go to the Final Four, Gary.
Yeah, so, my Sweet 16 here in the West Regional, I went all chalk, and it turned out that way. I felt really strongly about these 4 teams, particularly with the way Arkansas played down the stretch, but I don't think they've got enough to get past the Zags. So, yeah, I'll just stick with what I had on Selection Sunday. That's Gonzaga, Duke advancing, and Gonzaga beating Duke, ending Coach K's career, and going to the Final Four for the 3rd time in school history.
That is the only chalk region right now and it's not going to change in this NCAA tournament. Now, this region, somewhat close to chalk. And, Gary, you have chalk in the Elite 8 with Arizona getting by Houston and Villanova stopping Michigan's run.
Yeah, I made a mistake underestimating Kelvin Sampson. It's a mistake I promise you I will not make again. My logic for having Houston end its season short of the Sweet 16 was that they lost 2 of their top 4 scorers before Christmas. And usually when that happens to a basketball team, it puts a real ceiling on what you can be. And I think that's still fundamentally true. Like, if there's another top 25 team that next season loses 2 of its top 4 players before Christmas, I will once again say that they're probably not going to go too deep in the bracket. Unless it's Houston, then I'll give Kelvin Sampson the benefit of the doubt. But I do think they're running into an Arizona team that is just so gifted on both ends of the court, really talented. This is where I do think, not having Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark finally catches up to Houston. But, I've been wrong about the Cougars before. An Arizona-Villanova Elite 8 matchup would be terrific. 2 big brands. And, Jay Wright to be in the Sweet 16 for the 4th time in a 6-tournament span. He's got that program operating consistently at a high level. But I would take Arizona over Villanova in the Elite 8 and advance Tommy Lloyd's Wildcats to New Orleans.
Re-picking the bracket here with Gary Parrish, starting with the Sweet 16 on Thursday and Friday. And in the East region, that's where UCLA was your Final Four pick to begin with, and you're still going with the Bruins to get by.
Yeah, I had UCLA from the jump as a 4 seed coming out of the East region. I had them beating Kentucky in the Elite 8. St. Peter's took care of that for everybody. So now I've got it projected as UCLA-Purdue in the Elite 8. And I think UCLA is just solid enough on both sides of the ball to take advantage of a Purdue defense that has been playing better, undeniably. but still ranks outside of the top 80 in adjusted defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. Simply put, I'm worried that Purdue is not going to be able to show enough resistance on the defensive end to eliminate a team like UCLA. So I've got the Bruins and the Boilermakers in the Elite Eight, but Mick Cronin in the Final Four for the second straight year.
And Purdue hasn't been there since 1980. In the Midwest region, this is the one that you really, the only one that you have to redo, because you had Auburn coming out of there, as did many, if they didn't have Kansas. And you have Kansas beating Providence, Miami knocking out Iowa State, and being a 10 seed in the Elite Eight for Jim Larrañaga.
Yeah, this is really set up well for Jim Larrañaga's program. I mean, it's not every year or even most years that when you get to the Sweet 16, you're playing a double-digit seed, but such is the case for Miami and obviously also for Iowa State. I believe this is only the 5th time in history double-digit seeds have played each other in the Sweet 16, and I do think that game will be competitive, but Miami is they're older, they're starting backcourt, 2 24-year-old guards. And Iowa State, while the job TJ Otzelberger has done is tremendous, and it is a top 5 defense he's operating with, they just really struggle to score. And I'm afraid for Iowa State that they won't be able to score enough to beat Miami. So Kansas, Miami in the Elite Eight, and then the Jayhawks into the Final Four with a real chance to win the second national title of Bill Self's career. And, on Kansas, I would tell you that based on what else is in the other regions, Kansas probably the most likely to get to the Final Four, even if I think Gonzaga is the favorite to win the national championship. Obviously, you see, and a lot of brackets are going to look like this. This is what my bracket looked like on Selection Sunday. Gonzaga over Arizona in the national title game, and just a tremendous storyline if we get that. Mark Few against Tommy Lloyd, the first-year coach at Arizona, who spent 2 decades as an assistant coach under Mark Few at Gonzaga. For those two men, both of whom I've known for a long time, this matchup would make them sick to their stomach, because somebody would accomplish the biggest thing you could accomplish in this sport, win a national championship, but it would have to come at a best friend's expense. That's not ideal. I'm confident they'd rather play literally anybody else than each other if they get there. But if they do get there, and I project them that way, it'll be an incredible thing to witness.
Sportsline projects Gonzaga as the champion, but Gonzaga over Houston in the championship game in their simulations. Gary Parrish with us here on CBS Sports HQ. You can hear him on the Ion College Basketball Podcast with Matt Norlander. Both those guys, I believe, have 3 of the 4 of their original Final Four still in it. And if you've got that, I think everybody, despite the way things went that first weekend, everybody's got a chance. I'm number 2. I'm second in the HQ bracket, by the way.
Yeah,
number 2,
third.
right behind Alex G.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.